The 28th of July, Rabbi Furst, Havos Halavovos.
All right, thank you. As Lou mentioned, this is Rabbi Shlomo Furst, Yeshiva Samanafshi Yerushalayim Kiryat Zoom. Our first year this morning, as we're learning Havos Halavovos Shir Heshbon and Hanefesh, we're in the 21st of the 30 Heshbons and Hanefesh, the spiritual accountings a person should take with himself, and we're in the middle. Let's begin this paragraph. It's the second paragraph on the second page of your document, beginning with the Kishiyavin Oso Talmud. He's explaining now here, the Sefer Havos Halavovos is explaining how that when a person engages in Avodas Hashem, so there are several steps a person has to make, even though he may be not initiated in the various different mitzvahs and obligations what Hashem expects from him. The first thing is, as we said here, just if you want to look at it inside, is that he should, that's the last two lines of the previous document, previous page rather. First of all, he should be aware that a lot of what is expected of from him is sometimes not going to be within his actual ability, but nevertheless that shouldn't stop him. The first thing he has to do is to make his avoda, meaning his fulfillment of the mitzvahs, routine. He should become routine in the fulfillments of the various obligations Hashem expects from him. That's number one. Then it should be consistent. It should be routine. He should make it routine, and he should make it consistent. And then he should become enthusiastic and seek to do it, and till it becomes customary for him to do it. And then he should, after that, he should put forth efforts and strive to add on to what is even beyond his ability, right? And then he should, after that, pray that Hashem should help him. And then once that happens, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is in fact going to help him, and I'll see new opportunities, new vistas of serving HaKadosh Baruch Hu far beyond and above which he thought was ever possible for him to achieve. And he says this is not something which is unusual. That's bringing us to the paragraph that we're in now, the second paragraph of the second page. That you see this very commonly with other endeavors also, that a person sets out to become expert in a certain field of endeavor, and at the beginning he knows very little, if nothing, about what he's engaging in. And nevertheless, after he becomes acquainted with the material, he becomes knowledgeable and an expert in what he needs to know, then in fact he's going to be able to bring forth new designs and creations, new possibilities of understanding things based on his newfound knowledge which Hashem gives to him. So with that, let's just now begin again. Kishiyavin also a Talmud. When we're talking about when a student is going to be learning a particular subject, right? So when the student begins to understand things, right, then that's the beginning of his stage of being creative in that particular field of endeavor. Okay, so if you see where the cursor is, we can begin with that paragraph, second paragraph on the second page.
Okay. Ivin Oso Talmud Hativ V'Chafetz L'Amad Al Toladosav Behish Tadlus V'Charitzos. When he understands, when the student understands well and desires to achieve all of the ramifications of what he puts into his efforts and his enthusiasm, your who be habore hashiur hamecha vashi chashvi v'yitakein kalal madua. He will be shown by Hashem information and thoughts. His thoughts will be enlightened in general as to why. V'yochal lahotzi mimenu, and he's able to bring out from himself tzoros, designs, moflaos, umilachei daka.
Have a good day.
Have a good day, Judy. He's able to bring out from himself designs and plans and intricate things. Like things that
all these things were impossible for him to do at the beginning of his studies. He didn't have enough information, didn't have enough knowledge, didn't have enough experience and skills to be able to do all these things. But once he becomes involved with the course of study, whatever it's going to be, the craft, the profession, then he'll learn the skills, he'll understand the theory, he'll have the information, and then based on all that thing, then he'll be able to bring forth new innovations, new inventions, new plans and designs.
And similarly, and things that are similar.
It's similar somewhat to prophecy that comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
Similar to prophecy that comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. V'chein bishar hachachamos, and similarly with other types of wisdom, ki hatalmid yimtza b'libo, when a student finds it in his heart, kishehu mishtadel b'chachama, when he puts in effort with his wisdom. Koach Leone Ruchani. He receives from on high.
Right. So you see the person who's learning, the student here, finds all this in his heart. And when he's going to be put forth Yishtadl b'chachman is going to put forth efforts in learning the wisdom. He's going to have a koyach, he'll have a certain koyach ability that comes from a elevated spiritual level.
Ein b'koach adam leho ilu bo. It's not the strength of a man that helps him. Vilazeh amru rabosenu. And concerning this, it was said by our rabbis of blessed memory, Chacham adif minavi.
A wise person has more advantages than a prophet.
Than a prophet. Okay. Vamar Elo, I'm sorry, Eliyahu. It was stated by Eliyahu, Achein Ruach Hi Be'enosh. He draws spirit to a person.
That's right. This is
Va'al hahik shah hahakasha hazos roy lecha. And concerning this, it's difficult to act properly. Achai, my brother, Shetavin, you need to understand. Ki rov ha'inyan hamikavein b'mitzvos shehem begufim uve'avrim hu leha'ir al ha-mitzvos. Because the majority of the matters of his intention in doing mitzvahs that are of the body and the limbs, he needs these mitzvahs that
this is it. This is that you should understand. Achi, my brother Shitami, you should understand. Ki roi va'inyan hamechavein b'mitzvah shem begufim bevorim. The majority of those commandments which are needed to be fulfilled through the physical body and its limbs, who la'ayr al mitzvahs. That is in order to have to make it to indicate something about the mitzvahs. When we're given mitzvahs which are dependent upon our physical presence, right? This is something which is given to us in order to reveal to us various things about the mitzvahs themselves. What's that mean? 1 minute. Let's get a little bit more of an explanation about that. One second. Hmm. Uh, One second. Right. Okay. What this means to say is as follows. When you have mitzvahs which are primarily dependent upon the physical body and its limbs to fulfill the mitzvahs, like sitting in a sukkah, listening to a shofar, shaking a lulav and esrog and hadas and baravos, eating matzah, wearing tzitzis, putting on tefillin, all these mitzvahs and others are dependent upon the physical body to produce these actions. But these actions are not going to be fulfilled if a person doesn't have in his heart and mind the will, the ratzon, to do these mitzvahs. He must motivate himself to do these mitzvahs. It's not enough to think about eating matzah. It's not enough to think about sitting in a sukkah. You must actually go ahead and do those things. So all these mitzvahs that are dependent upon his physical presence and abilities to fulfill the mitzvahs are primarily stemming from his ratzon in his heart, his desire in his heart and mind. Because automatically, the physical body is not going to do these things automatically. Okay.
Asher tiena bilevavos uva mitzponim. That he aspires to do these in his heart.
But these things must be motivated by the aspirations that he has in his heart.
Mipnei she alehem sheman mishan ha-avodah v'hem sharesh ha-Torah, because that upon them rests his service, and they are the source of the Torah.
Right.
Moshe Kasuv, as it is written, Es Hashem Elokecha Tireh v'Gomer. You will revere the Lord your God.
This is a commandment which is something which is not a physical bodily command. It's something which is a command in a person's heart. But that's the whole basis of everything else that you're going to do.
Right. V'amar ki kariv elecha hadavar ma'od b'ficha ubilvavecha la'asoso, because it's close to you. This thing is close to you, very close to you. What's beficha?
It's very close to you in beficha, in your mouth, bilbaveka, and in your heart. Not so to do it.
In your mouth and your heart to do it. V'amar, and it says, Ma Hashem Elokecha shoel mi amecha. What does the Lord your God ask of your people, etc.?
Right. That right. He didn't. You have to finish the. You have to finish the pasuk. Right. It says, "Ma Hashem Elokecha sholom imach." What is that Hashem requests of you? Ki im liyira es Hashem Elokecha. Only that you should fear Hashem Elokecha. Once you have the establishment of the awe and the fear of HaKadosh Baruch Hu in your hearts, then all the other mitzvahs will follow suit. But if you don't have that, the other mitzvahs will not take hold. The basis for fulfilling the mitzvahs is the Yiras Hashem.
I don't get that. How does fearing Hashem help you with bringing these mitzvahs into your heart?
No, the mitzvahs don't bring it into your heart. Your heart has to have fear of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Once you have fear of HaKadosh Baruch Hu in your heart, then you'll be able to do the mitzvahs.
Why?
If you don't have any fear for the policeman, and you don't have any fear of the court system, you're not going to obey the traffic laws.
Right.
But once you have fear of the policeman, you have fear of the court system, then you'll obey the traffic laws.
But
that's the way people function.
But am I obeying the traffic laws because they're embedded in my heart, or because I'm afraid?
No, the fear is embedded in your heart, and therefore you obey the traffic laws.
Okay, let's go weiter. Umipnei shehi zeh lemala mikoach ha'adam. And because of this, this is beyond the strength of a man.
Since this is beyond the abilities of a person, this is really beyond the abilities of a person.
So what we're talking about is to have fear of Hashem.
That's a good question. What he's really referring to here is not exactly clear. Obviously, if a Kadosh Baruch Hu is commanding us to have it, it must be within our ability to have it.
Right?
That right, that the way they explain it is the fulfillment of the mitzvahs are really since they're dependent on a person's heart and his aspirations, and this is really something which is beyond a person's ability. So okay, I think we have to he's going to explain it further in the paragraph. Let's go further in the paragraph. I think he's going to with the explanation further in the paragraph. We'll get a picture of what he's talking about.
Okay. But let me ask another question about this idea of the fear in the heart.
Sure.
So I eat kosher food. Why do I eat kosher food? Because I'm afraid that if I don't eat kosher food, I'm going to get sick. So that's a fear that's embedded in my heart that a bad thing will happen to me if I don't do the mitzvah.
Right.
It would seem to me that that's a pretty low level of devotion to Hashem. It would seem to me it'd be better if I said, I eat kosher food because Hashem wants me to eat kosher food, because I want to be close to Hashem, and therefore I want to do what Hashem says.
Right.
So,
that also to a degree is here as well. There's a degree of fear which is fear from Einish, which is the Ramchal in the Mesil Sharm explains that the fear of Einish, of punishments, of retributions, of withholding goodness, either in this world or the next world, that fearing from Onish, from punishments, is the basic, most elementary level of fear. But fear it's a spectrum. Fear is on one end of the spectrum is fear from punishment, and the other extreme of the spectrum is fear of the lack of a relationship with the Kadosh Baruch Hu, the lack of pleasing the Kadosh Baruch Hu. When for example, let's say you have a worker in an office. Working office wants to do his job, correct? Now, why does he want to do his job? He wants to do what he's expected to do. Now, why is that? First and foremost, because if he knows he doesn't do what he's expected to do, he's going to get fired, right? That's number one. A higher level is he wants to please his boss. Why now? Why does he want to please his boss? Because if his boss is happy with him, there's a chance of getting a promotion, chance of getting a raise, right?
right?
So we wanting to do a good job on the for his employer is also a form of yira. It's a form of yira, which leads to performance of what's expected of him. But that performance of what's expected for him is not because he's fearful of losing his job or getting a demotion or docking from his pay, right, or loss of other benefits. His motivation is not because of those things. His motivation is because he wants to be held in high esteem by his employer.
Right.
So, but that's also a fear, because if not, right, he may not uh, get the promotion, he may not get the raise, right? And then there's another level where he simply wants to do a good job for the sake of doing a good job, because he feels that the best job he does is going to be the, well, let's put it this way, the better job he does, the better the company's going to function. And if the company functions better, so everyone benefits, right? So
Right.
there are different levels. There are other ones in between. I'm just giving you three examples, right? So there are different levels of why people are motivated to do various different things. It's just on a simple level of performing their job tasks. So when it comes to mitzvahs also, people can do the mitzvahs because they don't want to get a punishment, which is a very basic elementary level. And it's not the highest level by any means. Whether it's commendable or not, that's another question. Then there's a higher level that you want to do the mitzvahs because these are the ways that Klal Yisrael will succeed and getting individually and collectively. Person does the mitzvahs, he's guaranteed to have more siyata d'shmaya and more bracha and atzlacha in his life, and the Klal Yisrael would also benefit collectively for his performance in the proper way of the mitzvahs. And on a higher level, he wants to uh, give what we call a nachas ruach, Kadosh Baruch Hu, pleasure, so to speak, in having created him. Kadosh Baruch Hu created him in this world. He had no previous rights or claim to be created, but Kadosh Baruch Hu created him anyway. And so therefore, uh, there must be some reason for his creation. And if realizing that Kadosh Baruch Hu created him for some reason, he feels an obligation to Kadosh Baruch Hu to fulfill the requests of Kadosh Baruch Hu, because these are the things which Hashem wants from him. And since he's in this world, he must have been created to fulfill the will of his own creator. And therefore, that, so to speak, gives the nachas ruach to a Kadosh Baruch Hu. Kadosh Baruch Hu created a person, and the person's fulfilling the will of his creator. So that's makes it worthwhile that this person was created, right? So that, so to speak, gives the creator a nachas ruach, a form of satisfaction that his creation is performing properly, right? So the fact that the creation is performing properly, that's our motivation. We want to perform our mitzvahs because these are the commands of HaKadosh Baruch Hu created us to fulfill these commands. And by fulfilling our commands, we are performing properly. We're fulfilling our purpose in being alive. So once we fulfill our purpose in being alive, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so to speak, is more pleased with us and gets a sense, so to speak, of satisfaction having created us. Right, so that's a higher and a very commendable level, right? So, but the fear. So where does fear come into this? So on this high level, fear also comes into this. This is what we call um avimiyira. It's a form of love for Kadosh Baruch Hu based on fear. What we are love for Kadosh Baruch Hu, and love is translated into our fulfilling the will of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because that's what will give, so to speak, HaKadosh Baruch Hu pleasure, satisfaction in having created us. That is based on a fear. But what's the fear? The fear is that we are afraid of disappointing HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right? If we are not fulfilling the mitzvahs that Hashem created us to fulfill, we are afraid by doing that we will disappoint the Kadosh Baruch Hu, and we don't want that to happen. So that's what we call a Ava Meira, which is really the highest level.
But isn't it really a fear out of awe? We just Hashem is it's not a
right.
fear. It's an awe. We're in awe of Hashem that He has taken the effort to come and interact with us, and He wants us to be close to Him. He's given us a set of commandments that will help us get close to Him, and it's our obligation. It is our desire. We're amazed by the fact that such an awesome person has taken the time to want to build a connection with us, and we're afraid of disappointing him, but it's because of the awe that we have, not a real fear.
Okay, so that's a good point. I didn't mention that aspect. That's what the Mesillas Yesharim calls Yira Haromamus, right? That's what if you look at the Mesillas Yesharim, he speaks there in his section on Yira that there's the highest level of Yira, which is what we call Yiras Haromamus. We are fearful. We're in awe of the greatness, the majesty of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right? And there are different aspects of it that based on what you mentioned yourself, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu being the king, the majestic king, the creator of all, and he has taken a personal, so to speak, interest in us. And the fact that he's taken a personal interest in us, that gives us a sense of fear that we want the relationship to continue, and we would not want to do anything that would ruin the relationship between us and the HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Right? So that's what we call Yiras Haromamus, realizing the majesty of the greatness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and how we owe and are indebted to him. But included in that is also understanding the great powers of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That HaKadosh Baruch Hu is all powerful. He has the he has the power of life and death over us, the power of good and bad over us, of health and not health all over us. All these things are in the hands of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so to speak, in the power of HaKadosh Baruch Hu to decree upon us. So we realize his powers, his greatness, and omnipotence, and that's also a very high level. But that's according to the Derech Hashem and the Mesillas Yesharim, the Ramchal, that Yiras Haromamus is probably the highest level. But what I was speaking about was another level, which was called Ava Meira. Ava Meira is another level which is explained by the Maharal Miprag, that this Yira, which leads to Ava, or the Ava is a outgrowth of our Yira of a Yira. And what's the Yira that brings to Ava? That's the Yiras Haromamus. So the Yiras Haromamus, which you mentioned, that Yiras Haromamus is going to eventually lead to what the Maharal Miprag calls Ava Meira, that we have a love for HaKadosh Baruch Hu because of the things he's done for us, based on knowledge of his great majesty, his great awe that we have, the great awe that we have because of his great powerfulness for doing all the things he does for us constantly, from the very creation till everything we need and sustaining us day in and day out. And that Yiras Haromamus will also lead us to a higher level, according to the Maharal Miprag, of what we call Ava Meira, and that's an Ava from Yiras Haromamus. Then that Ava is a desire to maintain the relationship with the Kadosh Baruch Hu, so we shouldn't has to show him do anything that will interfere with that relationship. Right? But that's very true. That's another step which is necessary to explain here. The year is Haromamus.
But
And
I,
again, it depends. Some people function on many different levels. Different people are themselves on different levels, and even other people who are on higher levels, sometimes they function at lower levels. It all depends on the situation and the circumstances, at what they're functioning, where their basic functioning is in these levels. Yes, so basically have 3 or 4 levels of Yira. Basic level being Yiras Ha'onish. Then you have the then you have Yira, the simple Yira, not of Onish or not of anything. Then you have Yiras Ha'Romus, and then you have Avlami Yira. So you have 3 or 4 levels of what we call Yira.
but I wonder why we need the Yira in the last phase. Why don't we just call it Ahavas Miromamus? Exalted love. What is the benefit of having the word fear stuck in that phrase where it doesn't seem to belong?
Because it's a fear of a losing the relationship. You realize the Kadosh Baruch was so great and majestic and so far removed from us, and nevertheless has a desire, so to speak, for our relationship with us. So we don't want to we don't want to jeopardize that relationship. When you have a relationship with somebody, you don't want to do anything to jeopardize the relationship. That's a fear of jeopardizing the relationship. So likewise, Ava Miyira, it's a love which is based on the fear of jeopardizing the relationship.
Mm-hmm. I see. All right, Victor.
Yeah, let's see. Let's see, where do we leave off here?
First words of the next paragraph, the third from the bottom.
Okay, so maybe it's a good time to stop here. Rather than start a new paragraph, which we're not going to finish till next time. Let's just highlight that. And okay, so it's a bit clearer the way year fits into this. That he's basically our sefer here now. The Halavovos is not really going into exactly which type of year it is, right? He's just saying that the either the fear of punishment or the awe and respect which a person has for a Kadosh Baruch Hu, or the fear of jeopardizing his relationship with the Kadosh Baruch Hu, any and all of these 3 types will be motivating factors in him actually getting his physical body, his physical goof to perform the mitzvahs. And without that, it's very hard for the body on its own. The mitzvahs don't come through what we call instinct. There's no instinct in a person to sit in the sukkah. There's no instinct in a person to eat matzah. There's no instinct in a person to put on tefillin or talis or to put up a mezuzah, right? There are no instincts like that, right? So a person has to somehow have spiritual motivations for the fulfillment of the mitzvahs. And that's how he's referring to, has to do with somewhat with prophecy, that it's because you have to have this spiritual motivation, and that spiritual motivation comes from the same source in a certain way as prophecy also comes to a person. Okay, fine. So let's stop here. We'll take a little break and we'll start the Mishnah Berurah shortly.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you all. Thank you, Eliezer Tzvi. Thank you, Maren. Thank you, Lou.
Have a good
And
day,
we'll be
Lauren.
back. Be back soon.
Baruch to you.